Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
For there is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange, and this is my show. And today's show is brought to you by the Quackery Detector. It's simple software that you can add to your computer, so when you're scrolling through and looking at UFO stuff, you can find the Quackery. It will flag it for you. It's not recommended to use on UFO Twitter or UFox or UFOX or whatever it's called now, because it will crash the program. But if you want to run this thing in the background on the computer about any UFO related subjects, it will flag those quackery statements for you so that you know right away, which is not to say anything bad about ducks, but there is a lot of quackery out there. And tonight on the show, I'm very excited for the guest that I have on, because he's somebody that I had listened to an awful lot of over the years and read the books of, and I actually got a sneak peek at his newest book. My guest tonight is Jeremy Vaeni, longtime host of both Paratopia and Our Undoing Radio, as well as YouTube stuff like He's So Vaeni. He's the author of several books, but his newest one, which will be out soon and available for you to read, is Kundalini and the Secrets of Silence. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get right into this. So welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So this book is dropping in early January, I understand, right? You're still on the same timeline?
Yeah, January 8th. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Cool. I really enjoyed reading it, and prior to even reading it, back when, I've been doing the show about a year, and you were kind of on the list of people that I would want to request to come on the show. So this question I had in mind prior to reading the book, but reading the book kind of reinforced it, is I had to wonder if you ever kind of got tired or disheartened of kind of saying the same thing and trying to explain kind of an esoteric truth in a lot of different ways with limited response to it. It always seems like over the years you've been kind of what you describe in this book about Kundalini awakening and oneness and consciousness is something that you've been saying for a long time. And I wonder if you ever got, disheartened about trying to basically explain something that's ineffable, but also a simple truth at the same time.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I've also built up a callus over the years doing that with, alien abductions and UFOs and hypnosis and all that. So I guess that's my shtick, is to live a life of weirdness that other people seem to already have defined, and then go, no, that ain't it. And then they go, well, how do you know? And it's like, well, because I live with it. Well, so does this guy who has photos of a light. Yeah. It's right. That's not the same thing. I get it, but basically both worlds of ufology, which is the other one I'm talking about, and this so-called spiritual stuff, they have that in common, of the already defined unexplainable thing. Mm-hmm. That you're trying to sort of get to the heart at, but also I don't know. I guess with that goes, there's going. put it this way. So I came to the spiritual stuff via Jiddu Krishnamurti, who lived to be 1,000,000 years old, and on his deathbed said not one person understood what he was saying. So you pretty much know what you're in for when you read that statement, right? Like, here's a guy who spends
Right.
his entire life talking about this stuff, who comes out of the Theosophical Society from which all the New Age stuff springs, from which we get all the, Eastern philosophies back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, comes out of Theosophy, really, to the West.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes out of a cult sect of that who believe he's basically like the second coming. And so, while on the one hand he has visions and astral traveling and all this stuff, he denounces it on the other hand. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you live in a world that wants the powers and wants to know about the astral planes and the spirit masters and all that stuff, it's hard to hear. It's really impossible to hear. Don't bother with that. It's not what it's about. You know what I mean? And then to get
Yeah.
back to like just sort of understanding yourself, it's hard for anyone to hear. And so with Kundalini, which is an actual, energy that people think is a power that they can have, that they can turn on and off, that they can accidentally bump into, to hear, no, that none of that is it. I understand what you're saying, but you can't, for some reason, you can't hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, you know why they can't hear what you're saying. So the short version is I'm used to it. The long answer is what I just told you, plus, yes, you're right, it is frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And because, well, I mean, Krishnamurti is like a good kind of avatar for this, which is ironic, but the idea that Theosophy had bred so much of that kind of New Age, especially the particular people that were building him up as the Maitreya or the world teacher, the C.W. Ledbetter and Annie Besant. From them, we get so much of what is like New Age jargon. So it's kind of tough to explain experiential truth that you've learned through doing or through experiencing, when it's couched in the language of New Agey stuff that people tend to ignore or brush off. And I think language is a big part of it. It's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Language is a big part of it, and also I think that to be into these types of subjects, you think that you've already given up the conformity and the sheepleness and what society says, and you're nonconformist, and you think like you're onto something, you're onto a path or whatever. And it's hard to, that person, it's really hard to hear, no, you're still doing it. You've just moved the goalpost, but you're still doing a different kind of conformity and a different kind of wrong knowing, this false knowledge that you've. And it doesn't help that the universe will gladly back you up and say, yeah, you're on the right path. And I think that's the thing that's, I don't know if what I'm saying is different than what other people are saying, but I'm definitely willing to point that out, that It's not just that you believe things that are wrong. It's that the universe will gladly oblige you because the universe is knowledge, right? Like the human stream of consciousness wants to add to itself, doesn't want you to transcend it and step out of the stream. So it'll just add more knowledge to itself and go, yeah, this is it. Here's your path. Stay in me. And
I always like to think of it in terms of entropy, where wherever there's a space to be filled, it will be filled with whatever. Yeah. And I mean, I think you just kind of brought this up with experiencer as a term is a good example of how language can get in the way. When you're talking about UFO experiences, there's a lot of spirituality in that. I mean, nowadays you're seeing a lot to do with like Chris Bledsoe and his experiences. It has that spirituality really wrapped up in it, but you can see it all the way through to the earliest days of flying saucers. So it seems to me that it's like for listeners who may not know your whole backstory, You don't have, we don't have to relitigate all of that, but it's like you kind of used to identify more as an experiencer, or was that just a way of rationalizing the spiritual experience that you had?
No, well, I experienced it. So first, it was alien abductions, right? And
Right,
then I jumped the shark, and it becomes all this other stuff. But with the alien abductions, so alien abductees started calling themselves experiencers,
right,
and I didn't care. To me, it's like I get it. Alien and abduction, neither word really capture what this is, and so I don't care if you call me an experiencer or an alien abductee. But then I sort of I veered toward experiencer because it really doesn't make sense to say alien abductee anymore. So I kind of, it really doesn't matter what label it is, as long as we all know what we're talking about. I think that, to me, that's the important
yeah,
thing. It's the irony of we all need to know what we're talking about for me to tell you that what we're talking about is BS, right?
yeah,
That's the conversation I'm going to have, but we all need to be on the same page that that's the BS we're talking about, whether you believe it or not. And
well,
so
right,
experiencer, but as far as the spirit stuff goes, I don't call it anything. I mean, I sort of, I talk about enlightenment and I try to say in quotes, quote unquote spiritual, quote unquote enlightenment or whatever. But you know, I don't. I go out of my way to say I'm not enlightened.
hmm
And I guess you can't divorce. You can't. I can't. Say these are divorced from each other. I just coincidentally have one trough of amazing weird experiences and then another, and they're not related in any way. So if experiencer covers all of it, great. But really, we
right,
don't have a good word for it.
yeah, and I feel like in the field, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, we're always kind of changing out words for other terms, changing terms for terms to try to be more inclusive or accurate about a lot of things. And then people tend to be stuck on, flesh and blood aliens inside of mechanical spaceships coming from another planet. Uh,
Right.
that, that,
That's funny you point that out because, right. So, you change the word experiencer and we still think alien abduction. So, why did we change the word experiencer? You change to
right,
UAP and everyone is kind of like, we know what you're talking about.
right.
UFOs, right?
Yeah.
Flying saucers?
We're still just talking about flying saucers and gray aliens and maybe reptilians.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, yeah, non-human intelligence is another one. I didn't want didn't want to jump to that right away because I feel like I had another point to get to. I actually wrote on cards here, but notes on cards. But
Oh, look
yeah,
at you
because
being thorough.
well, I got to tell you, I was a little nervous to do this one. We haven't spoken before, so
I get
yeah.
it.
I don't typically get nervous, but I was a little nervous. So I wanted to make sure. I mean, because you cover a lot, and I want to make sure I'm accurately portraying what it is that you talk about, and give you the opportunity to. Because I mean, one thing I wanted to mention was it's not just you. I mean, it was Jeff Ritzmann as well in the old Paratopia days, which I wasn't privy to when they were new, but I listened to all the old episodes that you put up on the feed, and it seemed like you mentioned the shroud guy that Jeff was seeing and all of your experiences, and a lot, most of it didn't seem to be have anything to do with mechanical ships and little
Right.
gray dudes. There was a whole lot besides. Um, so so yeah, I mean, I guess experiencer is more inclusive of all of those things, but I mean, it must have been difficult to talk about. I think of it like where we're at now with a lot of. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I imagine UFO Twitter is a lot of the same. And back then, it seemed like that was probably really off the wall for a lot of people, even though it wasn't really all that long ago.
Right.
Um, yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, so was that like difficult to get across within the context of ufology? Um, I seem like you were fighting against a lot of ideologies at the time.
Well, which part? The Kundalini stuff or the Shroudman or something else?
Well, either or, because you guys kind of would go back and forth sharing your experiences with each other, and then
Yeah.
yeah, it
I,
seemed like you were kind of onto something with both, but they running on separate tracks, but with kind of a certain
well, it's
but
different. Like, so I came on talking about this stuff because it was already going on with me when I met Jeff, when we started podcast, when I started podcasting, even before Jeff. So you come in knowing up front whether you're going to believe me or believe that I believe me or whatever, you know. But with the Shroudman thing, that's something that happened to Jeff over the course of Paratopia, where his experiences, what we're talking about, is his experiences changed from like, you know, I don't want to. I want to say the Greys, but really, I mean, the one time he drew me a picture, it looked like the cover of Communion with like a one of those, you know, like an Asian hat on.
okay,
So, but it changed from those beings to, and a whole bunch of like spooky stuff to sit down chats with a shroud man, which is more like a contactee ish for a tall shrouded being who like just came into his house and was like, okay, you're ready for this.
yeah,
And we knew, I mean, we talked about it privately, and I think we even talked about it in the show later. Like, yeah, we knew that going public with that would be real challenging even for our own audience to be like, wait, what? Like, is this the turn into bullshittery? You know,
yeah,
is this where we become Greer? And, but, so, you know, it's just like, but you take the dare. And, you know, maybe ironically, I don't know, the first thing that happened was trying to talk about it into a microphone ended up in Jeff getting hurt by this phenomenon somehow. Like we had done it wrong, or I don't remember what it was exactly. But I don't know if you saw this. I think I have the photos on ourundoing.com. There's like and it leads to the Paratopia. It's like a Paratopia portal in there. So paratopia.net also brings you
yeah.
there. And I think I have the pictures in there of Jeff's back, which look like he got into a fight with Wolverine. Like, it's
Wow.
just, like, unless his, you know, the hoax version of this is that Jeff's wife took a rake to his back so that he could take a picture so that he could show me. And then, you know, however many months later, you know, we would come out with this publicly. And, you know what I mean? Like, it just is absurd
Right.
to think that because his back is all like bloody and scratched up, presumably because this thing didn't want us talking about it originally in the way that we were. And when he asked this shrouded being, why did you whip me, basically, he's like, you know, the answer is like, oh no, that's not what happened, you don't understand. Anyway,
Right.
let's go on. You know, and like typical of the phenomenon of like, gives you an answer that's not really an answer, and maybe because of the headspace you're in, that sounds okay at the time, and then when you think about it later, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's
But
almost like
anyway,
dream logic. Yeah.
yeah, so he got hurt first by this phenomenon for talking, and then we got piled on by, you know, some people who were rightly skeptical, I would say, but then some people who were nuts and just were looking for an in. I know this, at least one guy who was always wanting to take over for Jeff. He would always write to me and be like, I could fill in for Jeff. I should be Jeff, you know, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
he took it and ran with it on his blog of like, this is BS, you know. So, yeah, I mean, that was tough, but it was also like in the midst of having gone after hypnosis, which was the cottage industry of alien abductions. And so we were already blacklisted and already crapped on, I think, by this point, right? But
Right.
I think that happened before the Shroudman stuff. So again, it's like, well, we're prepared for this moment.
Well, I
But
mean, that kept
all
coming
told,
back.
I think we actually kept more people. Like people weren't as put off by it. There were a few, but people weren't as put off by it as you would think. And I think it helped. Like I think the reason we ended up talking about it publicly, if I remember correctly, was that Susan Kornacki came on the show and started talking about her abductions changed to these sit-down chats with these shrouded people, and it was like, okay, all right, this is happening, let's do it. So
Yeah.
it was in the air, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess I only bring it up because it seems to me that I don't know if it's directly a result of your conversations about your respective experiences, but it seems like people became a lot more open to a broader idea of what the phenomena is, or the phenomenon is, phenomenon, whichever it may be. If it's one big thing, um, but yeah, I mean, I think it was worthwhile because ultimately, you don't hear people talking about UFOs as much as you hear people talking about like the phenomenon. So
Right.
I think it opened a lot of minds, is what I'm getting at. I think it was,
Yeah,
uh
and I think
yeah,
part of the reason it opens minds is because Jeff sounds so serious, right? Like he's got that
yeah,
voice, and he's meticulous in his detail, but also he's careful. I think he doesn't. People don't know it to give him the credit for it, but there were certain aspects of that he held back, and that I talked about after his death,
mm,
namely what the being said to him about what's going to happen to humanity, and who the being said he was.
mm,
And one sounded like it could be scary and or something that you could then like build a cult around, and he didn't want that. And then the other sounded like contactee BS, and we were just both like, no. Like,
yeah,
because basically what did he say he was? I'm an alad. That's what he said. I'm an alad. Now, again, this is an answer that doesn't answer anything, because what the hell is an alad? But it sounds a lot like Allah. It sounds a lot like Aladdin. It sounds like a lot
yeah,
of things.
right,
And it also sounds like Valiant Thor from the 1950s or something.
right, yeah,
It's got that feel to it of like, no, we lose all of our credibility if we say this. So we never did, but he would ask researchers in private, after the show, like Colin Andrews, and say, have you ever heard of an Alad? Or,
right,
any of them, any of the researchers that we had on that he liked, he would ask around to see if we could, but nothing.
yeah. um, yeah, I mean, I think it opened minds, but also allowed people a little bit of the courage to come forward with what otherwise they would have felt was too crazy a story to tell.
Yeah.
um,
But that's the story of being like, again, this is getting back to like, that's the story of being an experiencer of high strangeness versus an alien abductee, which is, if you talk to enough so-called alien abductees, you find out that they have a lifetime, usually, of weirdness.
mhm,
That isn't answered by aliens coming here from another planet doing things that we can understand. They're just
yeah,
like us doing doctor experiments. And it's like, no, that doesn't explain like an elf in your toilet. Like one of my favorite stories.
the
It just
toilet elf
doesn't.
classic. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like I had my own experiences with like luminescent entities at the foot of my bed when I was really little, and I always kind of thought of that as like a ghostly thing, or maybe like a time slip of some kind. But then years later, I'm like, well, shit, a lot of alien abductees, quote unquote, have similar experiences. So it's hard to just describe when you're talking about high strangeness. It's like sometimes the weirder and wackier stuff probably is more credible.
Right. I mean, the
Yeah.
reason that I can keep writing about this stuff now, these past experiences, is that I still keep finding things that I would self-edit.
Mm,
Like, and the big thing that I self-edited that comes to mind is just the idea that in high school, uh, I and a group of friends, we were obsessed with this Ouija board there were some legit strangeness things going on with this Ouija board. It wasn't all just unconscious. There were things happening in the room with it at times. And so, but one of the things that happened was this being saying that on such and such a week, you're going to all be tested. And it was that week that a shadowy figure with a long, uh, needle, or I said sword back when I was like 15, but needle or something you would say in the abduction lore, walked into my room and was babbling at me. And I associated that with UFOs and aliens. I did not associate that with Ouija board or this week of being challenged. And yet it happened during that week. And in my head, I'd always thought, like, I can't say these two things at the same time or I'm going to lose credibility, Like, there's that fear of, like, how much can somebody hear and still think that you're sane or not lying or
Right.
whatever?
Yeah, it's like
But
explaining a
then,
synchronicity, and you have to get all the stuff, the background noise, to
yeah.
make it make sense, and then you just sound like a crazy person rambling at somebody with a bunch of disconnected things. Yeah,
But I think when I met Jeff, it really helped with that. It really helped with me understand that, like, no, this is all happening, and
mm,
just out with it, because that way we're going to figure it out. You don't have to
yeah,
keep it the thing that's TV friendly, you know, aliens. So yeah,
yeah,
I
and
think I
because that
still find
ultimate,
myself doing that.
yeah, and I think ultimately the more quote unquote rational explanation ends up being more laughable in the end anyway. You see
Yeah,
people like pushing for government disclosure, and it becomes this whole circus that is worthy of mockery. So,
yeah. I will say though that the difference between the so-called spiritual and the so-called paranormal is clarity. Like in the with the spirit stuff, you know what's true. Like there's no, I don't have a question. I may not understand all of what's going on, but I don't need to.
yeah,
And there's no question in my mind of like, it's it's apparent in you. And with the alien stuff and the paranormal stuff, there's always this, what is this doing this, kind of thing.
right. Yeah, and then it comes to a question of motivation too, where like, okay, why would aliens do that? And there's never an end to the question. Um, Whereas if you're looking at it from a more spiritual point of view, it's more just kind of observance and um, acceptance, I guess, just observing the patterns and just trying to kind of accept it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm way off there, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I would say that one, like the spirit stuff is me, and therefore it's readily apparent, and this other thing is another intelligence. And therefore it's not readily apparent. You know what I mean?
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
even though there's overlap, there's still this sense of otherness with that.
Mm, yeah. So it's kind of, I guess we can come back to the non-human intelligence element of this, because that seems to be one of the buzzwords that goes around nowadays.
Right.
And again, something I find funny, because we're surrounded by non-human intelligences all the time.
Yeah.
Um, because when I picked up your new book, there was a lot more ducks in it than I had anticipated. But
Yes. Yes, it's true.
yeah,
In many ways, it's the same book I've been writing, and in some ways, it's completely different.
well, so that's what I really liked about it. I really enjoyed it because I've read some of your other writing, and it seemed like I started out the interview. It's a lot of the stuff you've been saying, but it's like you're telling us about your ducks. It's a profile of each duck, and so, like different things that you can learn from them. And um, you go on from there with a lot of other descriptors and what you refer to as silence, like the intelligence of silence and the will of silence. So it seems like you're more directly tackling a lot of the spiritual elements that maybe before you've alluded to or tried to couch within, kind of humorous or high strangeness context. But in
Right.
this, it's like you're kind of going for it more directly by way of ducks.
Yeah. Yeah. And other animals. Don't worry, folks. There's other animals,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's mostly ducks. Yes. So, um, I mean, I wanted to deal with the myths up front, or what, common misconceptions about what Kundalini, this thing called Kundalini is, which um, I didn't use at all in the book, the word Kundalini, as you'll note, just the
Yeah.
title, so that we all know what we're going to talk about. But then I changed the terminology. I don't even address Kundalini as the word, because that's another culture's word. Um, and we all think we know what it is. And so I'd rather call it what I know it is, which is
Yeah.
the intelligence of silence. Really, Kundalini is the will of silence. So if you would say truth is the intelligence speaking, you would say that this Kundalini is willing the body to do physical actions.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I wanted to, originally I didn't want me in the book at all, believe it or not. I didn't want, but I just couldn't figure a way to do that. So it ends up being me-centric again, but also through animals. So basically saying, listen, if you can find these things naturally, it's not it. You know, like the ducks do these things. Like the things that people say are symptoms of Kundalini, some of them you can find just in regular relationship. You can find in these animals doing them naturally or being natural. So I was just kind of like using that, I guess, as
Right.
a thing. And then now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about what this is to the extent that it can be talked about at all. And I don't know if you got this from, like, I do a bit in there about our Paratopia trip to Gettysburg, where we go ghost hunting in Gettysburg. And I went on a couple of chapters about that because I had an experience there that I never really delved into, that I thought was fractally the same as this Kundalini thing and fractally the same as things that we see in nature, hive mind type things with bees and whatnot. Although it turns out bees aren't really hive minds, but that's another thing. The point of that for me also was to say, like, not that, and I say explicitly, I don't 100% know that this is true. I suspect it, and my suspicion is formed by experience. So it's not just someone's suspicion, it's like an informed suspicion. And I can't have conversations like this with anyone until you get here. So get here. Like, that to me is the point of that. I don't know if you got that. But that to me is also the point of, like, all of it. Is like, why do we keep having the same conversations about these types of topics over and over and over again? And each time we think, like, oh, this is it. This is deep. We're on to something. And we're just repeating the same things over and over. And it's like, no, I actually live a life of not just seeing it differently because I am a contrarian or something, but because, you know, the experiences transcend and include these experiences. So why don't you come here, and then we can have a talk about what's deep, you know? Like, let's do this. So I'm trying to, I know you can't give this to someone, but is it possible to sort of, like, cajole the reader into, like, getting this? Like really, and I would love to tempt you with this, but also tell you that the temptation is in the way. So don't be tempted enough to hear it, but then let that temptation go legitimately so that the death of self occurs, which is what is necessary for any of this shit to make sense.
Right.
I don't know if that comes through, but that was kind of
it
part
does,
of the
but
gist.
I think that's kind of the crux of what comes through. A lot of the times you talk about these things, and in this book, it comes through in a way that's more meditative and I think patient. I don't want to sound diminishing of your prior work, but it's almost a more mature kind of presentation of it, in a way that I think will lead. I think will lead people to understand it a little better, or maybe think about things a little differently. Because I think people need to move in increments, and it really sucks to be sort of in the position you're in. And I mean, I can relate to this about slightly different things, where I kind of assume that my readers or people listening to me talk are kind of where I'm at, looking at things from outside and I don't know, like a more nuanced view of things. But you can't force somebody to be where you're at, right? So you can't assume that from the get-go. But
and I could already feel my frustration, like you were asking before, like, are you frustrated? It's hard to be, like, it's at the same time that you're frustrated that nobody's hearing you, or so few people are hearing you, there's also the anticipation that that's just the way it has to be, because if they could hear you, we'd all be living happily ever after. But so I'm already seeing that. Like, I've sent this to people to review, and so now some of these people are already like sending me articles on animal intelligence. Like, look how smart octopuses are too. You know, it's like, okay, that wasn't the point of including animals in this book, but that's what. But I'm already prepared. Like, that's what I'm going to get. Is like, people are going to click with the animal stuff, and that may even make it a popular book. Who knows? But they're going to use that to not hear it. Like, to me, the thing that I understand that makes it less frustrating is that we are doing this to ourselves. Like, and I used to too, and maybe I even do in some ways still. But you just unconsciously latch onto the thing that allows you to like it and talk about it, but not actually be transformed by it, because you're not allowing yourself to fully get it. Because, of course, the brain, the body, doesn't want to hear that it has to give up its sense of self. It wants to figure out a way to stay alive in hearing that. And so this is what we do, you know?
Yeah. And I think with the animal stuff too, well, two thoughts. You run the risk of sounding like you're trying to be a guru if you like are speaking from a point of, you know, this is the lesson you must learn, my son, you know, like, and I think you go out of your way, as you said, to avoid that, where you're like, I'm not claiming to be quote unquote enlightened here, but these are my experiences and these are truths that you can accept if you get there with me, you know. But also, like, when you talk about animals, people seem to have two extremes, where one is that they're just dumb animals and there's nothing to learn from them, and the other is anthropomorphizing them and trying to think of them like they're people a little too much, you know, where, as you kind of say in the book, like, you know, the duck is totally comfortable just being a duck, doing its duck thing, you know, and that's kind of whole consciousness. It's something we could aspire to, you know, but we have to build a facade where we can comfortably reside as you know, special intelligent beings and individuals, right?
Yeah, it's weird, because in a way, it's like a human being a human in the normal way is resting in heart, is like these heart cultures, indigenous cultures, where the culture comes from the land, et cetera, in a sense that is us being natural, and we got away from that by becoming book cultures. So we became sort of delusional with Bibles and stuff, and separate and divorced from nature, and that's all a misstep. And yet, I would say that even a human being a human, in the heart culture sense or in the indigenous culture sense, still isn't fully it. You know, like, there still is this transcendent thing that maybe those cultures, I don't want to speak for all of them, because I certainly don't know all of them, but it seems to me, from what I know of any of them, they relegate those to specialists who go off into the spirit world and whatever. And from what I can tell, what they're really going into is the underbelly of the universe. There isn't a death of self where you're out. There is the engaging with what is there. And so all of that is valid, and it's what we can do, but it's also like, at some point, we need to do the death of self thing. We need to leave this. And I think that, to my mind, that's the overlap with the so-called alien abduction. And this is the other thing that I've sort of toyed with, but not been explicit about necessarily. But I will be explicit here, that there are two types of basic experience with this alien thing. One is coming from the universe, and then the other is coming from not the universe. And I think they look a lot alike, because the universe is mimicking, right, these beings who are not from here. And I think the not from here, they're non-dual. And so basically, if you want to switch the terminology, it's like there are non-dual beings that aren't in our time, but they can sort of speak to us. And when they do, the message is the death of self. The message isn't, hey, I'm aliens here doing alien stuff. That's from the universe or hypnosis, but that's not from without. And I didn't talk about this in this book. Maybe I'll just save it for the next. But I have talked about it, of having this dream that wasn't a dream, of these, essentially, these seals popping up out of a pool and showing me a scene of my sister being taken away by a military man. And I'm looking at this and I'm horrified. And she's a little girl and she's 3 years older than me. So I'm really little or non-existent. I don't know. But the feeling is like, I know what's going on. I could do something about it. I'm not helping her. And which is ridiculous when you consider the ages. I mean, if she was like 4, then I was 1 or 2 or whatever. 1. But it was visceral. It made me cry. It made me, I was like, And when that's over, the seal basically says, you still have attachment, you're not ready, and then they leave. And I take that to be, and I woke up and I was bawling my eyes out and I wrote to her and I'm like, I'm sorry if this ever happened. I know it didn't, but now I'm crazy. So, but I think that was a real experience. And this was after all, the so-called Enlightenment stuff. So I think even for me, that's the message, is like, no, if you really want to be non-dual, if you're really going to be non-dual, you really have to give up attachment. And that's what it means. It means at that level, like all of it. And when I have told people this in the past, I always get, that's nonsense. That must be evil. Like whatever that was is evil. And it's like, no, God, you're so freaking simplistic. It's like, no, you don't get it. Yeah. That's the truth. The truth is that difficult. Guy who dies and resurrects as Self 2.0 now with Kundalini and has a big enlightenment experience of seeing and being the universe, even that guy has to give up the game, Right. Because once you're back in time, this is the thing these so-called enlightened people neglect to tell you to be enlightened for you, is that once you're back in time, you're back in that corrosiveness. And so the ghosts of your previous traumas and problems, those are gone. They're actually gone, but the ghosts still haunt you because you're back, right? And so it's like an addiction. Again. Yeah, you're in the stream again. So it's like the riverbeds of your dysfunction have dried up, but they're still there. And there's this, something wants to drip, drip, drip back in, and it's you because you're you again. But you can't. But it can't happen. So you're liminal. It can't happen, and yet it wants to happen. Something has to happen because here I am talking, right? Like I'm clearly me and not me at the same time. And therefore you're back in duality, you're back in time, you're back in choices and free will, and which you now know is actually code for choosing away from truth. Right? Because you just were truth, and now you're not. Now you're talking about it, and truth is coming to you in the second person as words or an energy or however you want to put it, but it isn't you. There's still a barrier. It's not your first person experience anymore. And so because that's the case, you get seals coming to you in a pool telling you, you got to give up the game again, Jer, or whoever. And then I think that those beings are actual beings. I think that there is something waiting for us to wake up, or if we don't, we don't, and life goes on. But that is not something that ducks and other animals have. I don't think. I think, again, like you were saying, they're perfectly what they are. We're the only beings that aren't perfectly what we are, and we're almost perfectly what we are. We are in terms of Earth, in terms of living on Earth, when we're coming from that First Nations indigenous place that we gave up to be delusional, but and selfish, self-centered as opposed to social-centered. Yeah. But that's still not fully it. And so I wonder if, the problem with humans is that we're always going to do that. Is that the great cycle that, the Lakota talk about, that there's a cycle, and others?
Yeah.
that they've been us in the past and, will be the ancestors to whatever comes next. Does it always go that way? I think it does, and I think you can see it especially in island nations. Like if you look at the Tahitians, I live in Hawaii, and so when the Tahitians came here, there were people here already, and the Tahitians, they're nature cultures. They're both nature cultures, but the Tahitians already have a hierarchical structure that wasn't here. And when they came here, they saw these people, and they were like, we can dominate this because these people they don't have any social structure at all. They're just like, doing stuff. Which probably is the most natural thing on earth, right? But for us. But again, there's this sense of like to me, I look at that as an intermediary, or the Mayans, or anyone who builds like a great society but is also sort of still indigenous. There seems to be this intermediary sort of society where that is between being natural and coming from a space of heart and the delusional, power-hungry thing. So I think you're seeing that in some of those island nations where, to me anyway, it's like readily apparent. Like, oh, okay, this is what happens when you build up too much of a massive society, and it's probably easier to build that mass up on an island because it's a smaller location. But you see it in coastal societies, right? In the Americas, that it becomes us. Like that's the transition to becoming this, whatever we westernized we call it, but whatever, selfish.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to happen until we transcend even the original thing, even the original, from heart. From heart isn't enough. It's better, but there's something about us that is different from animals, and I think that's what it is. We need to figure that part out. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's super tricky because I think as you've alluded to in this conversation and in your writings is it's like once you kind of figure that out, and human beings have this tendency to want to feel special, like we're the special masters of the world, and it's our right to take it all over and build cities and live out away from nature and all that. You feel special for figuring that out, but then that's just another trap, right?
It's all a trap. Yeah. Anything you do is a trap. Right.
Right. But I feel like there are breakthrough experiences, and even outside of paranormal, but certainly what we consider to be paranormal, where you can enter that space outside of time. One chapter I really liked in here that I related to a lot was the chapter about Chocolate the duck, where you're talking about like the holy laughter, how this duck will kind of do a maneuver that makes you laugh and seem to want to do it just for your benefit, and it's just kind of like the laughter is the communication, and it's not a verbal communication, but it's an altered perception in a way that takes you out of the moment, takes you out of time, right? I don't know if that's what you meant to get at with that, but
yeah, no, that is what it is. And so I'm trying to get at, and it's funny because this is something that Professor Jeff Kripal of Rice University also latched on to that chapter when I gave it to him to read, and but for a different reason, for the reason of, this is the intermediary point between, because I talk about laughter has a secret, which is that it's the sort of the go between what do you call it, absolutism or whatever, non-duality, and feeling people's pain, right? Like, so the enlightened people have this problem, which is that on the one hand, everything is as it should be, and on the other hand, people are hurting. And so, Ken Wilber has talked about this, that they don't know how to rectify that. How do you, like, on the one hand, you feel the world's pain, you feel it all, and on the other hand, everything is as it should be, and no one has ever come up with a way to bridge that. And I thought, like, no, actually, the bridge is laughter. That is the bridge. And so there are certain things like laughter, certain aspects that transcend all through, the consciousness hierarchy that we've set up. So laughter means different things to different people at different points in their life, right? And so, but the reason, but because it has this aspect that is within the ultimate that I'm talking about here, that ultimate is gotten to through selflessness. And so, like you're saying, it can puncture, it has the power to puncture the self, therefore psychological time, and put you in the moment, as they say,
Yeah.
right? So you and the duck are having this moment, this momentless moment, this moment out of time, as you're saying. And that's why, because laughter actually does have a function that is, we would say, is higher. I don't like that word, but we know what the words are, right? It's got a higher function, and so therefore it kind of trickles down into these other ways. And because of that, again, I think like unconsciously, these evangelist types who do holy laughter get that in whatever sick way that they do, and so they use that holy laughter as a way to sort of, I guess, mesmerize their flock or whatever it is, get people to get a release. People who live taboo lives where they're all pent up and full of angst. This is their big release in these congregations. Oh, you have permission now to act like a drunken fool and fall on the floor and flop around like a fish.
Right.
But so again, I try to make the point in the book, like, you look at that as an outsider and you think like, oh, that's stupid, that's crazy, or whatever. But the reason that it works is because laughter comes from a really powerful place, even though that's being ignored. It's being utilized. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I've said for a long time, I'm always beating the drum about humor and laughter being important and kind of intrinsic to understanding high strangeness and paranormal stuff. But I try to make it a practice that I make room to laugh until I cry at some point, regularly enough,
I'd love to know,
if I can manage it,
and maybe because you've done more of the study than I have. But what is just roughly? Would you say that there's a larger percentage of people who are into Eastern philosophy or Buddhism or any of that enlightenment-y stuff, and the occult? Like, whatever the range is that you're into, that you understand, how many people are self-serious people, and how many people are jovial, funny people?
Well, from what I actually, it's difficult for me to say, because people that are too self-serious, I tend not to jive with, so I don't. They're kind of not on my radar as much, or I don't interact with them, or they probably would just think I'm an irrelevant goofball, which is fine, because I can absolutely own that. I am a goofball.
Because I just wonder if that's why Ken Wilber has that question, and why that question exists is because, when you do this enlightenment stuff, you're acting a role, and the role is, I am serious, I am disciplined, I am meditative, I am balanced, and so that's why they never get to the laughter part.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the magicians that I've read and a lot of current practicing people that I've talked to, I was a little surprised, but yeah, humor does play a role. A lot of them feel like you do have to have a sense of humor, I remember asking Alan Greenfield about it at one point, and he said that if you're ever doing serious workings and you're really involved, it's good to take a weekend off and just watch Bugs Bunny cartoons or Mel Brooks movies, because you need that release, you need that grounding, and a lot of practitioners have said that. And actually, when you go back in time, it's like Madame Blavatsky had a sense of humor, and I don't think people get the jokes that she stuck in there, but she did. Crowley had a sense of humor. A lot of these people weren't necessarily dour and self-serious all the time. They were human beings too,
But also think of it this way. Here's an example for you that we can all relate to, I think. Like, if you've ever had a serious conversation with a friend or a relative where one of you is crying and really, bearing your soul, and the other one is listening and trying to help you and all of that, doesn't it tend to end with one of you making a joke and then you both kind of laugh, and that's what takes you out of it. So that's what it is. It's like both are true at the same time, and so laughter mediates between the, in this larger sense, between the absolute, everything is as it should be, and I feel the pain of the world. You know?
I mean, I come from an Italian family, so if you're at a wake or a funeral, there's a lot of laughter, and it's not disrespectful. It's just like boisterous people, and then the Italian side of my family that want to remember and honor the memory, and a lot of that is joke telling. A lot of that is somebody, you have your time to cry a little, but then you laugh too. You got to laugh, and it pierces through that, and I think that tension between profound sadness and high elation is you want to try to straddle the middle somehow. You don't want to do it constantly, because then if you're alternating between sobbing and laughing, they'll put you away. But...
right. Well, this is more like, I think the laughter comes from, in this larger sense, like it is all an illusion, right? Like all of this is an illusion, but it does no good to say it's all an illusion when someone's in it and crying and or starving or being bombed or whatever it is, like the illusion is real too. Like both are true. It's an illusion and the illusion is real. That's what we're living. That is our reality.
That's where a lot of people kind of red pill themselves into a smooth brain these days on the internet. Is you see a lot of this where they take like a quote unquote Gnostic interpretation, where this is all a hologram, or it's all an illusion or a computer program, and it's like, nope, it's also real though. Like nothing is real and everything is real, so everything matters. That's the real lesson of Gnosticism and a whole lot of other traditions. And I mean, it was like you were saying earlier, the death of self is necessary, and to the wrong person that will sound like an evil thing where you have to shun the world. Or people think Gnostics are meant to shun material reality as being evil. Or people will see the concept of nirvana within Buddhism, the annihilation of the self, as being like a nihilistic and self-loathing affair. And it's not. You're becoming one with everything. And you already are one with everything. You're just finally recognizing that and dropping the facade,
Right.
Yeah. You're just melding right back in and becoming part of whatever you want to call it, the pleroma or whatever.
That's what I want to call it. I want to call it the pleroma.
There you go. It's probably not even the right term.
I don't know, but it sounds smart, so I'm saying it.
It comes from Gnosticism. It's supposed to be the outside reality that our material reality is couched within.
Huh.
As
sounds like
is
a
my
type of
understanding.
Tortellini that I would eat, but okay, I'll go with it.
Or like you throw some Alfredo on it, I'm sure. Maybe that'll be a sponsor for a future program when I cover Gnosticism more directly. But yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is incredibly frustrating to try to explain to people. And I wouldn't, I'm not trying to presume that I'm in the same. Before we started talking, I sensed that you and I would be simpatico talking about this stuff, but I don't want to presume that I'm coming from the same exact viewpoint as you, or that my experience is the same as yours, But
well, what is your experience?
My larger point is that I think everybody is going to have their own version of any particular person that's going to have breakthrough events into this timelessness is going to it's going to express itself differently, as an extension of them, like you're talking about, like seals in a dream directing you to a moment outside of time just to test your attachment to it, ostensibly, and it's reminding me of dreams that I've had that felt like it was an initiatory experience, where I've been led to like a goblin marketplace, and there were all these goblins and trolls walking around, and then I was given a gold key by Jeff the Mongoose, and I woke up thinking, but it didn't feel like a dream, because I mean, we all know what dreams feel like, and then there's the ones that you have that don't feel like a dream, it feels like something else,
right?
But
So here's the question about that. I acknowledge that, but do you think it is possible that, or what do you feel is calling to you from that? Is it something that is bringing you deeper down into the rabbit hole, or something that wants you to forget about the rabbit hole?
I don't know what its intention was, but I treat everything more or less the same, which is acknowledging that something happened, and accepting it, and trying not to get hung up on it. But definitely something worth thinking about, you know? So I don't know what that was. I mean, it was during a period of time where I had, on a whim, decided that I was going to try to contact space intelligences on World Contact Day as an experiment with a few other people. And it was a pretty simple thing, and it was lighthearted and fun. We had got a bunch of people to listen to the song that's based on the original World Contact Day thing, the Carpenters song, calling occupants of interplanetary craft. Everybody listened to it at the same time and just kind of meditated an intention out there. And that came as a result of that. I had a series of dreams. I'd have one once a month where there was some kind of interaction with things that didn't feel like my normal dreams. And and I think that was the culmination of it. I think that was the last one.
Right.
So, but there again, I never really tend to feel like, when I try to explain my dreams to people, that it's all that interesting.
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean,
know?
If it's a dream that's not a dream, you know, that's interesting. If it's just a dream, that might just be for you.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of this is, though, I think a lot of personal imagery, that something that's going to be important to you personally is not going to translate as well when you try to express it, whether it's a dream or whether it's a high strangeness experience.
Right. But the message is universal, right?
Yeah,
like that would be the difference.
Exactly. But the forms are only so much dressing on the idea, right? And I mean, I think you actually kind of say as much at one point in the book, when I was combing through and making a couple notes here and there. It was something about how inessential the forms themselves actually are, all the different forms that things can take to convey truth. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like, it really is kind of simple. It's like there's this one thing that has to happen before anything else can be fully fleshed out, which is this coming to terms with ourselves, the death of self or whatever. But like, we learned during COVID that we don't even want to sit in a room by ourselves. Like, we're still coming out of the craziness that is a couple of weeks of, you know, not being able to go out and have a normal quote unquote life. Yeah. People went crazy. People don't want to sit with themselves or their family, apparently, but with themselves. I mean, and yet we want to explore powers and aliens and ghosts and angels. Like, we want all the magic, but we don't want to deal with ourselves. So we're running from ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're running from yourself and you don't know what you are, and you've got it, but you claim to have enough of it all figured out. Oh, everything's just human nature. You know, that's, of course we're going to screw up and go on with life. That's what we are. You don't know that that's what you are. That's just a story you tell yourself. But if there are beings who have reached that plateau, doesn't matter what form they are in, like the consciousness is the consciousness, how are they to talk to you? Like, what are they going to talk to you about? What's the only conversation that's fruitful is about that, getting to chisel away at, like, you need to be with yourself. So yeah, I think the form doesn't matter, and I think the conversation, the only fruitful conversation, is going to be really limited. And one of the ways that you may get there is by flooding the zone with a whole bunch of crazy stuff, to the extent that you can't really rest in a definition, because none of the definitions work. And so you have to sit with that. You have to, at some point, you have to sit with the meaninglessness of what you've got, And is there anything meaningful? Like, what am I missing here? Because why does Bigfoot look like an alien, look like the devil, look like an angel, look like the trickster theory? What is this? And why is it all happen? How many things can happen to one person if they're not lying and they're not mentally ill, before you realize, like, all those things have to be like finger puppets on the hand of an intelligence? Is there just one intelligence finger puppeting? Or is it that when we get to, like, consciousness has a ceiling, and when you get there, both hands with finger puppets share the same consciousness, the same non-dual understanding. And they know what you don't, which is you're that too. It's just that you're asleep. And so how do you wake up a sleeping person? If you go into the dream, you become a character in the dream, and that ain't helpful. But yet you have to go into the dream to have a prayer of, so maybe you go into the dream as a whole bunch of stuff. And you flood the zone, like I'm saying, to make people realize, like, wait, this is crazy. Something's not right here. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got to sit with the question. Like, I can't answer it, right? It has to be a question. That's just it.
Well, right. Everything's always going to end up with a question mark. One of my favorite things that's happened in all of the news that came out with the James Webb telescope was a couple of years ago. They took a picture of this nebula that's shaped like a question mark. And it's so beautiful because it's as far out as you can go into space, and what we have a picture of is a question mark. We haven't found answers. We found more questions out there. And I think that at the heart of it is, like, you talk about this as well as capital M mystery versus, like, the smaller mysteries. Because, I mean, with your story about seeing your sister taken away, I think the traditional resolve for a story like that in paranormal literature would be, you called your sister and you found out that something just happened, but you didn't. You contacted your sister and she's just like, okay, whatever, weirdo, like, hope you're all right. Right. because your sister wasn't the target there. They were testing your attachment levels,
Right.
And similarly, when you talked about the thing in Gettysburg, where it's sort of like a two-dimensional shadowy shape, like, it reminded me of when I was a teenager and dabbling in witchcraft, and I could see those shapes when I would do workings, and then I was like, but that's not what I'm to take away from this. I'm just, that could just be a coincidence that we both saw something that matched the same description. Or maybe I'm just projecting what I saw onto your description, thinking that that's what you meant, because it's my only frame of reference for it. So I can't assume that, but just because some forms are used doesn't mean that that's the point of it, right? I guess is what I'm getting at. It's a means to an end to get you there. Yeah.
That I don't even think. I think it's the SEAL dream is presented as a test of my levels, but it's not. They know. It's for me to see my levels. And in the same way, like, I remember, Jeff with the shrouded man, that whole contact stopped for him when I think he was touching the guy's robe. And did the guy say to him, yeah, this is the same fabric that we used to cover you when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So when he was a kid, he had these scary experiences, again, with the classic alien of being covered with a sheet, a black sheet. So he's, one, acknowledging that, yes, I'm part of that same phenomenon you thought just went away to have conversations with me. And I did the scary thing when you were a kid. And Jeff reacted by jumping away from him and telling him to go F himself and get the hell out, and he doesn't want this anymore. And the guy was like, whoa, 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 I didn't expect this. I guess, I'll go away until you're ready. You really think the guy didn't expect... I mean, I asked Jeff this on the show. You honestly think he didn't know you were going to react that way? He just thought he would bring up the scariest thing of your childhood and be like, yeah, I did that nonchalantly, and that was... Now, and you can say that was a test, but I think he knew what the reaction would be. He knew Jeff would fail the test. I think the test is whether Jeff would see it in himself, whether Jeff would be able to step back and see the whole rigmarole going on here and take it from there with himself. There comes a point in all this again, we're talking about like being with yourself, where you have to sit with yourself with this. It can't just be social. I'm a ufologist. I'm an experiencer, and I go to these chats and I go to these conferences and online groups and stuff, and we just talk about this forever and ever, and because it's interesting and it gets the cockles going, and I feel whatever I feel about it. You have to sit with yourself to really have a chance of bringing it to the next level. This terminology. Yeah. But that's it. Like, it can't just be happy fun time or a social experiment or going and recording EVPs. Eventually you have to sit with yourself with this stuff and go, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, and as you noted, like, people hate doing that, increasingly so, because we have ways to distract ourselves all the time. I remember, like, years ago, I had a job, kind of a crappy job, cleaning a building at night, and I had to work with a woman that was doing the same thing. And she could not go anywhere without having earbuds in and either music or a movie playing on her phone. It always had to be distraction. Always had to be noise. And it never made sense to me because, I mean, that was one thing I liked about that job is nobody was in the building, peace and quiet. And it's just a mop on the floor, like, but people hate silence. They hate being alone with themselves.
I think it's even harder nowadays than it used to. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You and I are of a different generation. Like, yeah, because I think, like, even our silence, I mean, I know this just from living now.
Yeah.
The difference between me sitting around on my own now as when I was younger is that you were allowed to sit around more in silence then. Now it's like my mind is racing with stuff, crap from the internet or TV or conversations or whatever. It's like, so it's like to say, be with yourself. It's almost like you've got to be doing something, listening to music or something to block out the noise that's just going on in your head and be able to focus. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like for a lot of people, that is their alone time, is narrowing, it's the Buddhist thing, narrowing down all of that thought to one thought, except this time you're talking about a song or a movie. It's like honing your focus because we're so all over the place. But you got to find it in yourself to not try to block all that stuff out, but just, acknowledge that it's there and that's it. Be fine with it, and then still find the focus in yourself to, figure out the meaning of life, man, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I guess that brings us back to silence, actually, capital S silence, being alone with yourself and allowing that to work through you. I mean, I get the sense that this stuff in particular is stuff that you're being more forthcoming about in this book than you had been prior, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be kind of the ultimate lesson of it, but
I'm being more forthright about it, and I mean, again, it's a tough thing because I'm not a guru. I certainly don't want to start a cult, all of that, but I'm also, I think, asserting my, I don't know if authority is the right word, but just the fact that I do know these things. How about that?
Right.
So, which is why I make it clear when I am not 100% certain of something. But I'm being clear that I am 100% certain of some things. And that's new for me. Because normally I do shy away from that. But I'm doing it here because it's just time to do that. And I don't know, did I send you the part with the postscript?
Yes.
The version with postscript? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think that's what I'm referring to here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So as a result, I think, of that, definitely of writing certain things, because there are things in this book that I have not said, or I haven't said in the way that I'm saying them, but I also think there are things that I haven't said. And I think I did it right in that my back, which I bitch about in the book and in pretty much every book since time immemorial, which blew out when this so-called Kundalini first rose, the first and final time it rose, because it only rises once, folks. but it blew out my back because I was out of shape as I am. And so I've had, for 25 years, I've had, this back pain, which is gone. And not just that these bulging discs on either side of my spine are back into place, but that these two sort of fatty, congealed calluses basically on either side have disappeared, which were causing me, I think were probably causing me a lot of the pain, are gone, magically gone. After unleashing this energy, this will of silence out on the gazebo. And I think I didn't say this in the thing, but the reason, I had really exasperated the problem recently because we had someone staying at the workshop, and so I had to clear away a bunch of tree branches and pluck up giant grass roots and stuff like this. And basically I strained my back to the extent that usually the problem was on my right side, but my left side was so bad that I couldn't stand or sit or lie down and be comfortable, which is a bad place to be. And so I had no choice but you're right. So for days I would go out there and concentrate on, or, just ask basically, can we heal this? And I'm not expecting, because obviously in 25 years, this has not healed my back fully, but I just wanted to get back to normal. This thing was, I was feeling things popping deep inside my body that didn't seem to be actual places in the body. It felt like, this is weird. Chiropractors were not able to get to this. This energy was not able to do, or didn't do this before. And lo and behold, it cleared me all up. And so on the one hand, it was the reason that I went out and did that. There always seems to be a reason, even me who writes about this stuff and lives this life, I'm still lazy, I don't really want to go out there and meditate or whatever. So it gives me a reason to, okay, now you're really screwed up and you have no choice. So now I'm going out there and it fixes this. And I think in response to getting the book right, because there just felt like a big sigh of relief in me of this is it. I did it. Which I haven't felt with other books, It didn't do this after Urgency. I wrote Urgency, which is all about not specifically Kundalini, but the general spiritual stuff. And I didn't feel, obviously, I still had the back problems. So, yes. I don't know what I just answered, but the answer is yes.
Well, yeah, I think some of this stuff is, again, difficult to write about and talk about because, like you say, you don't want to be, you don't want to give the reader the impression that you're trying to be a guru or that you're going to show them the way and everything. But it is pretty interesting the way that you kind of work with silence and the will of silence, and I guess you just kind of let it animate you, right? This is stuff you're spontaneously making these hand gestures and mudras and moving your body in different ways toward different ends, where it's almost a collaboration with whatever the will of silence is. Where it's not like you're a wizard casting a spell for a specific end, but it's just kind of compromising with the energy that is there, I guess.
It's basically either I will have nothing in mind or I will have something in mind that I would like to accomplish. Help me heal my back. Let's make it rain. My cat is injured. Can we heal her? And it's always an ask. And then there are, especially I talk about changing the weather, which sounds ridiculous. And this is easily provable. I could just record it. You could look at what the weather is supposed to be that day. But I'm not going to do that. So,
yeah.
Because who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. Go do it yourself. But I talk about even with that, there's the ask, can we do this? Can I really, is it possible? And then finding out other ways. It's the answer is yes. And then there are different ways. And it's kind of you have to be specific, right? In some sense. Because some ways of making rain make more rain than others. And funny enough, those are more inclusive of trees and the land and the wind blowing off the ocean. As opposed to can we just make rain? It becomes a symphony or something, or a group effort with other beings. Trees. I don't mean aliens or something. but all of that comes from, right. I mean, ultimately I can make the ask and the answer will be yes or no. It's not me doing the movements. It's not me so because it's not me doing the movements, it's not my personal intelligence. So I don't actually know that we need rain. I just know that I feel like we do. But it may be that we're going to have a storm coming through in a few days. You may ask, like, hey, why don't you just turn on the TV and get a weather report? It's because I don't have cable. So I am at the whim of whatever comes to YouTube, which is usually late. But anyway, so and that's the way it is with like trying to heal a person or heal an animal or something. Is like I may think that the problem is your leg hurting because you tell me that. The energy knows better, or the energy knows what the leg is actually hurting in response to which another problem that you may have, and so it figures that stuff out and it acts accordingly. And but all of that is a silence that I don't think, this is where I get cringy in myself saying this out loud, but you don't have access to because you haven't done the death of self thing. So for you, I don't mean you personally, I mean the general you, silence, sitting silently, when I say sit silently, I don't mean that you're going to sit silently and suddenly this magic energy is going to come. I mean, like, there are different versions of sitting silently. One version is sitting with yourself and contemplating things, contemplating your own experiences and meaning and all of that. The other is, there may be other ways to get there, but the way back to heart and out of brain and selfishness, for me, was doing positive negation on my own personal issues. So I sat with myself and I thought about, like, why do I do the stupid things I do? I thought about them individually, the bad things, the stuff I don't like to talk about, even to myself. Why do I do them? Why am I this way? And then deconstruct, well, because this is how this unfolded in your life. And it always goes back to your parents. And then you think, like, okay, why did they do the things they did? Why are they the people that they are? What do I know about my grandparents? What do I know about their growing up? And what do I know about my great-grandparents? You go back as far as you can. And then, spoiler alert, you may just come to this full-bodied realization that the answer is, this is what we do. This is what all humans do throughout all time. We're all in this together. This sorrow, this tragedy, this screwing everyone up, screwing each other up. That's what we do. That is what we do. And when you come to that realization, it's your problems are no longer yours. It's everyone's got this same problem. And it's like that revelation, when it's not just intellectual, but full-bodied, is like, literally moves your center of being, such that you may think that's enlightenment because it's so blissful and, like, you're now whole in some sense. And part of that, like, and it has repercussions like, I don't care about music anymore, or movies, or TV, or any of that stuff, because I don't need to fill anything. So I never get bored. I never, you know what I mean? It, like, does these things that may lead you to believe that that's enlightenment. And it's enlightening. It's certainly pretty damn good. But it's actually not something that nature cultures, for instance, need to really go through, because they never left heart and that inclusiveness and that being for allness. They never left that for the delusion of me. And so that should be a clue that it's not enlightenment. So, but that's a type of sitting with yourself that I think is super important to do. That also isn't going to lead to this energy, for me at least. And I think, again, this is the part that takes various forms, but they're all leading to the same thing of, like, for me, it was being that guy, the heart guy, and sitting on a couch and reading Krishnamurti for the umpteenth time and realizing, oh, wait, I'm the guy who does this. Like, I just moved my own goalpost. So I'm still me. Like, why? Like, it just dawned on me, like, why am I still reading this when I completely get this and could teach it at this point? Oh, because you're that guy. You've just become that guy. And that realization shut me up. There is no me shutting me up. It's just having this realization that's so, like, obvious that the brain tilts. The brain projecting you, because you want to think that you're a soul or a person or an entity unto yourself, an individual. Well, you're not. And so the brain shuts up. You shut up, you go away, and then you come back, you resurrect 2.0, with this energy. And now when you're silent, or when I'm silent now, truly silent, that's the energy starts speaking. This, silence itself starts maneuvering the body. So again, all of this is to say that there are different versions of silence, and I'm not saying if you sit quietly and just like contemplate your weird experiences, if you're an experiencer, that's going to bring you to this. Because I think people expect that, like, well, if I just sit quietly and meditate, it'll come to me. And it's like, no, there is no you. It's not coming to you, and you're not doing anything. You're in the way. You're the problem. So it's, if you want access to this or whatever, you got to give up even wanting access to this.
That's the hard part. That's the real trick, I think. I mean, that's kind of where I began my practice of, casually observing, taking note of, and acknowledging things rather than acting on them or, extrapolating too much from them. It's just that, that's one of those Buddhist precepts. That's like, the wanting stuff is what really trips you up.
But see, and you're right. But then you've got to come to that point where you realize, oh, now I'm the guy who does the notations and just observes shit.
Right.
Now exactly. I'm that guy.
Right.
And the universe will keep you here. Again, I keep coming back to this because it's powerful, like, to hear, I always, not always, but I often hear from Buddhists or Zen people who say that this sounds a lot like what they're talking about. And it's like, no, but this is the part that's hard to hear. And it will sound like I'm trying to be super special in saying that you can't get here, only I am here. But it's like, these Buddhist meditations and these Zen things are facsimiles. They bring you to a narrow focus, but they don't dissolve you. Because the person who was dissolved, who came back with this, people in thought want to create thought constructs out of it. That's what the universe is doing, literally doing. It's padding itself out with this stuff. So it's like you have a non-dual experience and you bring it back and you bring it to your people, and they're going to weave it into a carnival ride. It's going to become a thing that you can experience. And it's funny, I don't know, if you're Buddhist, then maybe you'll know this better than I do. But from what I've seen, it looks like, including the Kundalini stuff, which isn't Buddhist, I guess that's more Hindu, but it's all the same in that it's like a lot of creative visualization. It's like visualize this so intently that it then happens. It sort of spills into the room. Or hone your thoughts down to just one focus. So like practice, or do the mantra over and over and over again. Keep repeating, and then eventually, you'll do that sigil magic that brings the thing into the room. Is that correct, or is it your experience that no, actually, Buddhism says not do that? Buddhism says give all that up too. What say you?
Yes, I guess is the answer there. I have a theory that a lot of Goetic Western Hermetic traditions that are talking about conjuration of demons or calling down angels and all this stuff, it's an elaborate means to trick you into self-purification, so that by the time if you're doing it right, by the time you're equipped to conjure demons, you don't want to anymore. Like it's a way to trick you into some kind of transcendent, enlightened experience. But the reason you have all the horror stories is because people skip to the back of the book and just purification. Where do we get to Astaroth? I want to talk to that guy. But yeah, I mean, there are so many different forms of Buddhism, and I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Buddhist, but I have studied with Buddhists and have read a lot of books, and but reading books is different than practice, I think I have an understanding. The Tibetan type traditions and the Vajrayana traditions have a lot in common with and are more tied to Hindu ideas. So that's where you might see things like Kundalini and conjuration, and the idea of tulpas, as misunderstood as that can sometimes be.
Hmm.
But yeah, ultimately that's not the point. It's all of this stuff is still phenomena, and phenomena is tied to the Maya of the material world, which is illusory, and ultimately the which again doesn't mean it's not real, but it's ultimately an illusion because there's a reality beyond that. And
But
the
in terms
idea
of
is,
just the meditation, though, like saying to meditate and to either narrow all of your thought to one thought or to say that you're different than your thoughts, just let them float by, just be the passive observer, the witness, the whatever.
mhm,
There's still you involved in that, right? Like, to me, it really is not just tulpas and stuff like that, but the whole thing of saying how to quiet your mind. The fact that the word your is in there and how
that's a
to, these are
problem. Yeah,
problems.
yeah, they're very much
And
problems. Yeah,
so we acknowledge that, and yet we still keep doing it. So how is that? Like, does like I would imagine Buddha
hmm
did not say a lot of the things in Buddhism unless he knew that people wouldn't understand, by and large, the truth. And so for them, here are ways to be better people in the world. You know,
yeah.
you'll get this, and then maybe a few of you will see past it. I mean, does that sound like kind of what happened?
I think that's true of a lot of religious and philosophical thoughts, is that it has to be boiled down to something that, even if you can't take away the grand truth, you can at least take away things that will make you less of a dick to people.
Right. I try to not offer the less of a dick part. I go right for the grand truth. So it's not so like when I'm poo pooing these things, I'm only poo pooing them in the sense that to say they're not what I'm talking about, and that doesn't mean that they're not valid or better than smashing each other in the face.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're way better than that. And it's not to
Mhm.
say that they're not interesting. Like I go into a thing about my mushroom trip, and it's
I
not to
mean,
say
being a
that
dick has a place also, so I think
being
we
a dick
should.
has a place.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca journeys have a place. Like all these things
Right.
have a place, but
Yeah.
they're not it. And my fear is that we live at a point now where we can't afford not to engage with the it, because the it part, not the clown, of course,
Yeah.
but it is what is our wholeness, is what
Right.
human nature really should be. And if we keep putting this off or keep not seeing it because that's scary, that's death, even though the body remains alive, I don't know what that is, will I be possessed, whatever. Like, we've got to wrestle with this a little bit better or a little bit more and get a little bit deeper, because we're killing ourselves and we're taking
Mhm.
as much of Earth with us as possible. And I'm sure in the long run, Earth will be fine and will flick us off and all that. But is that what we want? Like, and then what? The next version of us comes along? Because there's got to be a sentient portion of the program here that is not quite animals, but also animals, that must be
Well, it's the
represented. And is that representation always going to cyclically fall to its own devices, or will we ever see through the game? We got to get to that, Like, it just isn't enough. So, again, it's like it's not that these things are wrong or bad or whatever, they're just not it, and we need to get to it because we keep thinking they're it. And then, like, I try to make the point of the mushroom trip. Like, how many people do you know who have done ayahuasca or DMT or shrooms or whatever, and they've had these big magical mystical experiences that
mhm.
changed them personally or whatever, but they're still dicks.
Yeah.
Like, they may have changed you for the better in some ways, but you're still, now you're a narcissist, but about this stuff, but with a
I
different
have to admit
language.
that I find that incredibly tiresome, hearing like trip reports from people, and especially people that think that that had led them to some grand epiphany. Um, I'm not saying it's impossible to get there through psychedelics or,
I am.
but well, I mean, I wouldn't rule it
I'll
out.
say
I
it.
wouldn't rule anything out for sure. But most of the time, most examples I've ever had put in front of me is uh, I'm just like, yeah, that ain't it, man. That's not the thing, though. You kind of miss it. I mean, one of the early influences for me was Ram Dass, and he kind of started on that whole LSD thing, and then abandoned it in favor of spirituality. So it's kind of really interesting. I read in his book that there was a yogi that he gave LSD to that he told him that it only gave him a headache, and then there was another one that had no effect on him at all. The one time I ever took it, I immediately fell asleep, which I guess I don't know what that means. But then again, even me saying that right now makes it sound like I'm putting myself in parody with these yogis and ascetics in India, which is not what I'm trying to do. That's just what happened.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and you talk about your experience with that, and you kind of become the clown in that. You said it jokingly, the clown, just now, but it's kind of funny because in the book you have this kind of fictional character of Giggles the clown that you temporarily become during the trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not like, there's definitely a message for me there
Yeah.
that I can use to explore myself with. But I also, at the point that I did shrooms, I had already had the big I am, universe exploding out of nothingness. So I already knew that this was not that. This was different and annoying to me in some ways. As I say, it's like being tickle-tortured with a feather versus understanding a good joke. You're laughing in both instances, but one is torture and one is understanding. And that, to me, the shroom trip was the tickle torture. Fascinating and all of that, but not it. And the reason that I say, like, you're never going to get there, what we're talking about there is nothingness. I mean, silence and nothingness are the same thing. And you're not going to get to nothing through something. You're not going to, even being a witness is something. Even being a tiny voice in the back of your own consciousness as like Toontown and imagination happen in the foreground and you're just feeling out of control. That ain't it. Being immersed in Krishna consciousness out in the ether, that was part of my experience. That ain't it. It's like, these are all things.
Right.
And nothingness is nothingness has to be the absence of things has to be the
but
case,
it's also
because that
all
absence
things.
of things is all things, right? Because that absence, I mean, this gets back to the illusion. What's the illusion? The illusion is the separation. All of these separate things are one consciousness, which is, nothingness is basically, a formless awareness, being. What's it being? All things. So getting back to the self-awareness of that oneness is what we can do. I think that's the difference between us and ducks. Is that, we can be ducks, but we can also, we can be humans as we are, but we can also be the first person experience of truth, of nothingness, of the consciousness that is doing the illusioning. That can be, so that is the merging of timelessness and time. This construct Jeremy and this construct AP Strange, these constructs are the brain faking it. And it really is a good fake because we so much believe in it that we want to bring that into death. We want to bring that with us when we go. But it's a psychological time construct. You take from the past, you project it into the future, and that's your present moment. And this is what we all do. It's a time. We're a psychological time construct. And so, but what we have the ability to be also is, like, the body's already a time construct. So you don't need the mind to be that too. The mind can be timelessness, Non-duality can be the case, can be the mind. Oneness, God, whatever word, can be the case of the mind, while the first person identity as you, while the body continues on in time. And it may seem like a wild notion, or it may seem like, to most people it's not a wild notion. But to most people, oh, I've done that, and it's like, this is where I want to like shoot myself in the head. Die is meeting the people where you say all of this stuff to, and then they're like, oh yeah, I've done that. You're like, oh really? Okay, I gotta go because you haven't. It's not nothing. And I don't mean nothingness. I mean, it's not just a throwaway line. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's where the
so
first
delusional.
Question, that's where the first question that I had for you kind of came out of. I was trying to frame it in a way. I was hoping to frame it in a way that would be funnier than what I said. But
this is where we've moved as a society, right? Like the old days was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. It's mystical and meaningful, and I got to get to it. And now we're at a point where, like, after decades of that not happening for us because we don't really want it, we just think we do, because it nags at us, that pit in our belly, it nags at us. You're not, But then we put all of our energy into the arts and stuff. It's like, oh, well, I'll find it in a U2 song. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. That makes me feel, well, okay, but you got to sit with this. And instead of doing that, we go, well, I guess I've already mastered it because I've read all the books. I've listened to the songs.
Right.
We've been here, done that. Everything feels blasé. So I must have already done it. I guess I'll go teach it.
Yeah.
We've just skipped over the part of being and or non-being to say we've mastered something. Like this, that part does bother me because it's hard to break through without you sounding like the arrogant prick in the room. Like, how do I, you know what I mean? And part of the inoculation people have is in saying, like, my truth, what's right for you may not be right for me. And and I surround myself with people who are non-judgmental because I don't like to be judged. And it's like, when you have that level of barrier around you, treating yourself like a billionaire, just putting yes men around you in your normal life, how do you break through to that? Without because people like that are so super sensitive because they don't want to look at themselves so deeply. They've already claimed that they have, or that they do, and that they've mastered something, and that they know something. And then if you don't engage and validate their belief system, then you're the a-hole. So, yeah, that kind of is frustrating. Like, how do you talk to people at that point when they're the only people interested in this stuff?
Yeah.
Are the ones who think they've mastered it. Like, what do you do at that point? I guess it is game over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's difficult because, I mean, you can express some of what you've expressed tonight that might just sound like common sense to some people, and then, oh, okay, I accept that, and they feel like they might understand it intellectually, whether they do or don't, but they still don't. They still don't get it unless they've had the experience. But also, then you have people that either disingenuously believe themselves to have mastered everything, or have, clung to yet another delusion in the procession of phantoms. Then they, I mean, it's. I guess the best you can do is lay out a trail of breadcrumbs and hope people pick up on it, and they don't all get eaten by ducks in the meantime.
That's true, yeah. I mean, I just hope that people, watch your reactions even to what you're hearing with this podcast, or like, just watch your reactions. If anything I'm saying or he's saying, like, grates on you, be non-judgmental. Don't judge that. Don't judge yourself or us, or just look at it. Just say, okay, why is it? Be the scientist. Ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? But allow yourself to be okay with not knowing also, because a lot of what I run into also, and probably more than even like, oh, I've mastered this. I mean, it goes hand in hand with that, but is the person who listens to stuff like this or like UFO shows, and because we're using the same language, they think we're speaking the same language,
Right.
Like, they hear Kundalini, they hear alien or whatever, and then they think we're all on the same page here, and they don't listen any further or any deeper than that. And it's like, no, we're not. I'm not talking about the same thing you are. But they're
front loading it with their own assumptions too.
Yeah,
right?
it's like they don't allow themselves to hear what's actually being said because they only hear the buzzwords that feed them. And we got to get beyond that. So if that's you, you'll know that that's you because you're either pissed off by what I just said or you completely ignored it and went on to something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where I feel like an outsider with today's disclosure movement, especially, but with a lot of things. I mean, I feel like I just turned into the old man Lebowski from The Big Lebowski, and I'm just like, what in God's holy name are you blathering about? Like, I just hear terms thrown at me. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? So, I mean, I try not to engage it too much, I feel like I put out what I put out, and it's there for people, and I think it hopefully reaches the right people.
That's it. I mean, that's all you can do,
Right. And
if one person, when I'm dead, understands what I've written to the extent that it has the effect where they put the book down and go, oh, wow, I'm that guy or that gal, that's it. That's the best. That's the best that can happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And as you say, it's like you run the danger of either just sounding like the arrogant prick in the room when you're trying to just relay what your experience was, or you end up being frustrated with people misinterpreting it and projecting themselves onto it and thinking that that's what it is.
Yeah, or not.
I think that's partly why I was nervous. I do want to kind of compare notes a little, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to say, "Oh yeah, no, I have that too. I get you, man. I'm right there with you." I don't want to be that guy. Yeah.
But you may also. I mean, maybe you are right there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that, like in talking to people about, especially about Kundalini, because that is one of the subjects where I have certainty, because I lived with it for 25 plus years, So when I hear people say I turn it on and off, or it's even the terminology like my Kundalini activation, you would never say my, like that would never be a thing.
Right.
That's part of the death of self.
Yeah.
But feeling hot and cold or feel whatever, to say like, I hear you, that's not this. I don't know what you're going through, but that's not this. Like, can you be okay hearing that, or have you built up a belief around whatever you think this word should mean that sounds like offensive? Like, it shouldn't sound offensive to say you're misdiagnosing the problem. Or you're misdiagnosing the case. It might not even be a problem. But there are lots of things that can give you psychic abilities, and there are lots of other energies in the body that you can play with. This just ain't one of them, That's all. But we've built up all this belief around it that it's hard to talk about without immediately offending people. So my hope would be that in hearing what I'm saying about it, in terms of it being an intelligence and all that moves the body, that you would see that transcends and includes what I'm saying, because you can have these psychic abilities and whatever through the Kundalini. You can also have it without it. So I understand, like, I guess that's my point, is like, there's got to be something in you that goes, you got to be willing to acknowledge that, like, what this guy just said actually makes more sense than what I've been thinking this whole time. Like, unless I'm wrong. Like, if I'm wrong, then you can think that too. But you've got to make the case, right? You've got to make of why it is that I'm wrong. It can't just be like in one ear and out the other, and I go on saying I've got Kundalini activation or whatever. It's like, because it's more important than that. Like, this is what we are fundamentally, and I don't think that there's still a difference now between me and Kundalini. They're like two operating systems in the same body. And I think ultimately, when I give up my own a new sense of attachments, that perhaps two will become one, I think that that's the case. And so, again, I'm not a complete person telling you all of this. But I am alive with this, and so I know that it's not what you're talking about. And don't be offended by that. Just look at it. I could be wrong. I could be delusional. You know, all that stuff is true. But just look at it. That's all. Because if it does you no good to just have these conversations over and over and then pretend like, you know, I've got a power too. It's like, all right. Do you want to be romper room for the rest of your life, or do you want to actually figure this shit out?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a point at which it just kind of becomes navel-gazy, and you just, you know, it seems to me that the only reason you're expressing it is because other people might benefit from it if they can get what you're putting down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important. It's us, you know? It's like, my God, man, look at what we are. It's like, this is what we are, and I know it because I live it. And it's like, this is ridiculous that I'm alone with this, you know? I don't feel like alone and lonely and like, I'm not a Morrissey song here. This isn't the Smiths, but because that's part of understanding. For that. Yeah. But it is frustrating. It's like, oh my God, this is what we are. We're so much more. And you know, and if you just look at what you're even saying about what you claim you're experiencing, oh, it's a goddess energy. Oh, it's, you know, it's really, you think a goddess, you think any sort of living intelligence is just in you, making you feel hot and cold, or making you like do sporadic psychic clairvoyant shit. Like, you think that that's what's going on with an intelligent being? It's the same thing with aliens, right? Really, you think an alien doctor is Spock is coming down to like go boogada boo every now and then to punctuate your life with weirdness that has nothing to do with actual aliens? Like, you think that? Like, see it, not because I can be a dick pointing it out, but you still have to like wrestle with the fact of it, right? That it doesn't make sense. And there has to be a rational anchor. It's not that this isn't transcendent of rationality, but it's transcendent include. So there's always going to be a rational anchor point in this, right? It's not going to always be like, people want to say like anything can be real. And it's like, not really. Like, there still has to be, the weirdness is that it transcends. But the inclusive part is that there is sense to it. It's not nonsensical, even if you don't understand all of it. But there's enough there that there's got to be a rational anchor. And so one rational anchor would be just to admit that you can't say that this is a living energy or a goddess or a god or something, or even a demon possession or whatever, you know, the Christian version of that. And then say that, like, what they came to do in this body was just to like make me a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, that is easily answered by like science. Like, I know a lot of old people who feel cold too when it's hot out. You know, that ain't Kundalini. It
sounds like a blood pressure issue, my friend. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, science is real and medicine is real. So listeners, go see a doctor first.
Yes. And Reiki might be real too, you know? So, but that doesn't mean it's the same thing. I mean, my mom is a person who I guess does Reiki. And she called me recently. Is like, Jer, I just saw your, I did this Kundalini demonstration or whatever on a Vaeni episode. She said, I just watched that, and you know, next time I come visit, maybe, you know, you can activate that and I can activate my Reiki, and we'll see what happens. And it's like, no, this isn't Wonder Twin Powers activate. Like, come on, man. Let's be, you're my mom and all, but let's be serious here. You know, like, this is, like, that's just gross to me. No offense, Ma. But like, that is offensive in a way, you know?
Right.
And it also is like not hearing what's being said. But it's interestingly, she said, it got her sort of hackles up. Like, it started watching that video, triggered her Reiki energy in some way, which is why, because normally my mom's very skeptical about things that come out of my mouth. But I guess because that happened, she thought there was something to this. But it's like, this isn't trivial. Let's put it that way. And a lot of these signs and symptoms and claims of how it came alive for people seem to be very trivial to me. And if there's no death of self, there's no silence maneuvering, because you are the blockage that's in the way of that which is being blocked. Nothing other than you is the blockage. You are that blockage. So unless there's you gone, this can't come in. That's it. That's it. and there are maybe numerous ways for you to go away, for you to have the epiphany of I gotta go, for the brain to see it deeply, where you stop trying to seek away, it just stops you in your tracks. You see that the seeker is useless in this instance. But that's what needs to happen. Otherwise, you're just you're playing with yourself, as I say in the book.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it trivializes things in the same way, or it would trivialize things in the same way that trying to prove you can manipulate the weather would. It's not like a parlor trick. You're not like,
yeah, we live in a drought zone.
Yeah, trying to prove anything to anyone for any particular gain.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. And I mean, I think that kind of gets to something I had kind of planned to ask is, in respect to your own personal experiences, is that with what you call the silence or variously Kundalini energy, is that well, I guess you kind of already answered it, but it's I guess you're not trying to show people the way with it that it means to you. No, I don't even know how to phrase this now. Language is really tripping me up at the moment. Well, I mean, there is that danger of people hearing what you have to say and thinking that you're trying to say that you're special, or you have like ownership over this one thing that nobody else can touch it, right? Like,
right.
Where more so it's kind of a glimpse of experiential knowing of a type of energy that people try to tell you is something else, right? So, or try to identify with in a way that isn't accurate to your understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not the only person on the planet that this is, has become this or whatever. But the popularization of wrong things is a problem.
Right.
And no, I'm not really even setting up a roadmap to it. I mean, I'm telling you what happened with me, and which may even be problematic because it's hard to say to people, look, don't seek, but here's the ending to the story, right? Now don't seek this. Here's what happens next, but don't seek it. Krishnamurti would never do that. He was perhaps smarter than I am in not doing that. He would never. I've seen video of him talking about Kundalini twice, very briefly, because people had asked him questions about it. And, but he always prefaces it with, "Dear God, of course you people want to know about this shit, right? Like, nobody cares. Right. I say this stuff over and over. You don't care about that. You want this stuff. Okay, fine." He never says what happens next after the death of self. He just says, see all of this, find out for yourself, and that's it. He never had the conversation about after. So, which is great for me because I had no expectations for anything. Kundalini or otherwise, I had zero. I don't have a belief system in this. I'm not well studied in it. So, what the hell? But I'm talking about it because I think like we're at a different point in history than we were in, even the 80s, where again, people already think they know what this stuff is and they think they're engaging with it or they've mastered it or they're whatever. They already think they know because they've read. And so I think it is helpful to say, look, this is what it is. Meticulously, here's where we keep getting tripped up. Here is what happens afterward, but don't worry about it. Like what? Yeah. Just know that you're wrong. I guess that's the part that because if you know that you're wrong, then you're not experiencing it right now. Therefore, you skipped a step. Like if you can see that this is what it is, and if what I'm telling you makes more sense, all of the steps here, then you see that you're not right. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter that I'm right and you're wrong. What matters is that you're wrong, right?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter that I'm right.
Yeah.
Like, take me out of the equation. I'm just pointing out that there's a wrongness here that you are engaged with, but that is also what we all do. Like, it's not just you. It's like, that's what the brain does. This is what the universe wants. It wants you here. It is time. It wants you in time. Right. It takes the whole thing. This is just what we do. Just see the whole. There's no way to not use language that is going to be offensive, because that's part of using language. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, people are going to find a way to, frame it in such a way where they can go on with themselves. But no, just see, like, if it makes sense that, oh, okay, I see the error here. And then you want to say, what's the remedy? And the remedy is, there is no remedy. Just sit with the error and ask yourself, why do I engage in this way with the error? Why am I doing this? And that's it. You've got to deconstruct you. I can't do that. Nobody can do that.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, there's no universal roadmap for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a path or what, but
right.
But even that won't necessarily lead you to this, because you're going to keep tripping yourself up all along the way. Even with the, after the Kundalini awakening, and then there becomes this unfolding of the psychic stuff and all these tastes of what's real that are beyond my normal, everyday existence. Those want to trip you up. It's like the poppy, land of the poppies in The Wizard of Oz. It's like, all along the way, you want to trip yourself up into going back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Oh, be a clairvoyant. Be a master of this. Oh, go teach people this. No, just be so interested and so childlike and so honest that you want to know that you don't know, and you want to see where this is going. Not that you want to know what the end is, but you're interested, like, in the journey. This is the journey you should be interested in, not like life's a journey, man. But like, when this shit is unfolding and impersonally, now life is happening at you in a completely different way, just be so interested in that you don't want to take up any one aspect of it as a trade. Right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
and then see if you don't get to somewhere, like, that's it.
So you shouldn't set up something in the desert where you can contact lights in the sky and direct people to it. That's what you're saying.
Well, if you do, just realize that whatever is there isn't an alien from another planet, because they're not sitting in a desert waiting for you to set up a shop to shine a flashlight at them so that they can shine a light back at you. That's not what aliens spend their tax dollars on. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only thought with all of that, a way to sum it up is, like, if somebody's trying to tell you that they're enlightened, it's like, or that they've gone through self-death in that respect, is like, well, okay, well, why are you still here then? Shouldn't you have just, like, ascended or transcended experience? And I mean, what your book tells of your journey is that you become yourself again. You become reborn as Jeremy 2.0 in your case, right? So but yeah, I mean, I feel like there are, I think we've just been outlining a lot of the traps one can fall into, because all of it seems to be a trap.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fluidity there, There are no, this, that, this. So, but yes, a lot of these, everything we've described is basically, this book is a trap when you think about it.
Right. But it was an entertaining trap, so.
But it's okay if you can remain self-aware to know that it's a trap, then it's not a trap, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just it. None of these things are a trap. You just have to be self-aware in the moment, which means watching your reactions to things. Right. I mean, that is so more fruitful than any of the magic books you're ever going to read. It's just, it's amazing that we're all looking to be whole, to be complete, to be a real human being, whether we frame it that way or not. And yet, because that requires the death of self, we're just like, unconsciously, we're like, nah, I'm going to just go pretend. I'm going to go fake it and have some superpowers,
Right. I mean,
and still feel like crap. I'm still going to feel like crap.
Yeah. I'm still going to be miserable, but
But that's just human nature. And then we just go,
Yeah,
that's human nature. That's the way things are. It's like, well, it is the way things are, but it's not natural.
yeah,
It just is what is. There's no
right.
denying that. But do we have to be that?
Yeah, it's not inevitable.
Yeah.
There are things that could be adjusted and to help that along. So so yeah, I mean, for listeners, I would absolutely recommend getting a copy of the book when it does drop. There's a lot there's a lot to chew on in there, and there's a lot to like I said, I feel like it's more meditative and um, lays out the breadcrumbs for people to follow in a way that maybe hadn't really been done before in quite that way for your writing. Um, um, and I really enjoyed it. So,
Oh, good.
uh, where would you recommend people find the book? Is it
Uh,
just Amazon or whatever? But
Wherever. Yeah, Amazon or I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting if you ordered it through your library. I suppose your library would be forced to buy it. So maybe you could try that too. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
Amazon.
idea. Yeah, and then unsuspecting people can stumble onto the mind of Vaeni and
Yes. Yes, torture people with more me, please.
um, do you have anything else coming up? Are you working with podcasting and video stuff?
No, I mean, I do. I've been on hiatus from doing Wise Ask with Tom Cheetham.
Right.
But we'll probably get back to that, and then I've definitely got to start recording another season of Hour and Doing Radio. But other than that, I have no big plans.
Okay. And you're still doing the He's So Veiny videos on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I want to do one. I haven't done one on Krishnamurti. There is a long chunk of an interview that he does about AI and computers and stuff
Oh,
with
interesting.
oh God, one of the forefathers of that movement back in the 80s, whose name
Wow.
eludes me at the moment. And I find it interesting in what that guy can't hear. And so I
Hmm.
want to do a thing pointing that out. Um,
Well, it is kind of
yeah.
because Krishnamurti lived kind of near what became Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
Is kind of right in that area, so he would have known a lot of the same people. Interesting. Um, yeah, that's funny too because when I was reviewing your book, the PDF of your book, to make a few notes, it was trying this had an AI pop up that was trying to summarize the book for me, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm
Really?
just like, I was tempted to just click it and see what it said, and then
God, this
I
stuff is
was
so intrusive. It's like,
I hate it.
really? This is what we want to do?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually now curious what it would have to say about your book.
Yeah, go for it.
This guy really likes ducks.
I mean, somebody sent me what AI had said about me. They put AI into some, I mean, AI. They put my name into some AI engine,
Yeah.
and they sent me a screenshot of it. And I thought it was pretty accurate. I thought it was pretty fair. It's like, maybe there's something to this. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm not a fan personally, so
Yeah, me
I
neither.
think it's going to contribute to people not thinking. But it,
Yes.
yeah. Well, this has been a pleasure talking to you, and it was a pleasure reading your book. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and for chatting me for as long as you did. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, talk soon.
Bye bye.